All right. Lee's working on work items. His current work item is to work on the items. So why don't you share your
Tongue
work item?
twister. So CRM contacts
So
widget
this
has
is
just
actually
been built.
showing contacts next to a work item, like a
Yeah, so um, again, I'm probably going to do a terrible, considering I've only been looking at work items for a few weeks. But my understanding is that possibly we did used to call these widgets, but the concept, the term has been completely changed with regards to work items. So this is an issue. This is the old sidebar, and maybe we did call these widgets, but there's a new widget about town, a new concept of widgets, and that actually involves the back end as well as the front end.
hmm.
Now, this that I'm on here, I think, is a task, a task, and this is a work item rather than an issue. This isn't the old issue sidebar. This is the new work item sidebar, and
Yep.
these are the new Fandango widget things. So whilst contacts, I haven't got any contacts
Uh,
attached. No, I've got a contact here. So contacts
yeah.
would show against issues, but they wouldn't show against work items because this widget just hadn't been created. So
Oh, you
I've
actually okay. I
kind of
actually got really confused. You're actually not on a separate page. That just like opened up a modal for the work.
yeah, exactly.
Oh,
And
wow.
again, I haven't even got further enough in learning about work items to know how. I imagine we've
Yeah.
got some feature flags to switch to full blown work items, which means that even this issue screen would actually render a work item, not an issue. And there's sure there's a lot of other stuff involved in it,
Interesting.
but
Okay.
at the moment, I'm happy enough that this I know is a work item. This is the work item sort of screen and widgets down here. And this one I've kind of created from scratch.
Cool.
Now, what I'm really excited by is that the plan isn't to simply lift and shift, if that's the right word. So the work item, sorry, the contact widget in the old world is view only, read only. It just shows you can click, it's a hyperlink, but it doesn't allow you to interact. Now the sort of designs, etc., for the new world are a little bit more fancy. So we're actually going to group by company. If we've got a few contacts on there, slightly nicer hover, and we're
Oh,
actually going to
cool.
be able
Wow.
to, if I can find the right design, kind of click. I'm not actually finding the one that I want, am I? Contact selection. There you go. We're actually going to be able to select from there. So at the moment, the old school, you can only use quick actions to add
Right,
contacts, remove
right, right.
contacts, etc. But we're actually go. But we're actually going to be able to do it through the
Cool.
widget, through the sidebar, which is pretty cool. Yeah, absolutely. And as I say, there's some awesome work being done to create a sidebar drop down widget, which takes a whole bunch of stuff and does a load of magic, which is great. A lot of the widgets are using that, wrapping that.
Cool.
I hope that I can do some more abstraction at a later stage. But what I've started to do, I just copied labels or assignees, but I've tried to genericize all of the terminology rather than replacing,
Yeah.
you know, are labels selected and is loading labels with is loading contacts, are contacts selected. I've just gone with item or items. So I hope that this will be a lot easier to either abstract to another component that's reusable or to simply just allow people to copy and paste this and like I've done, but not have to rename 100 different occurrences of the word label
Right, right.
because it's using generic terms. Now, I think I'm getting there. I've got something rendering, but first of all, it's not showing. There are some contacts on here that it should be showing. And when I
Hmm.
click on edit, I'm not getting the list back. The first thing that or where I sort of got to, I could see that it's making a query to try and get contacts, but it's not loading the variables in.
Did it
So
have some error response? Did I just see that in the
it did, yeah, essentially because it's saying that the variables need to be populated. So
Oh, I see.
um, it may be that I at the moment I'm reusing an existing GraphQL query. It might be that we need to kind of make a copy of it without all the variables, or not without them all, but without a lot of them.
Yeah.
But
Well, so
I
which
can't
problem
immediately
do you
see.
want to solve first? Do you want to solve the edit dropdown or the showing of the contacts?
Well, I think showing the contact should be much easier, right?
I think I agree with that.
So, should we have a quick nose to see if it's kind of getting data? And so it is getting some items passed
Yeah.
in. Yeah. So I guess the question is probably just because I haven't got as far as unhard coding some dummy values or something. But so at the moment, okay, that's interesting. So read only, I would actually expect to just be showing a read only for this. Hold on.
I think we're getting none.
We're getting none
So I
indeed.
wonder what's list items that we're passing into.
So
Is list items going to be the value or?
uh, so that's an empty array as is item value. So neither of these things are working as
Okay.
expected. I'm just going to close. I don't know if you know a magic way of doing this, but I do find that the view dev tools
Yeah, it's pretty helpful.
don't refresh a lot of the time. I
Oh, yeah.
don't quite know what you have to do to force it to refresh.
There's I have very low. I'm always like refreshing the tab. Even if things like hot module reload, that's just like a reminder to me of like, oh, I gotta reload my page.
Yeah, so it looks like item
IP
values
is like, what's
list
wrong with
items.
people?
I just
None of
wanted to praise Lee because I saw that they're like proper Tailwind classes already, like the utilities. It doesn't use the old utilities. So if you've written the code, kudos.
Nice. Nice.
I think I've stolen it. I don't know what bit.
You stole the right code.
um,
And it
Yeah.
takes
Yeah.
takes a
It takes a
competent
master
engineer.
thief, right? It takes a
Yes.
master thief.
absolutely. So it looks like all three of these things are empty. Item values, list items, and local items.
Do you want to jump into that fancy drop down component to see when does it render none?
We could, but I think if all these things are empty, then it kind
It's
of
obvious, but I'm not sure which. I don't
makes.
know what item values, list items, or local items mean. Like none of those. I don't know which
Yeah,
items are going to show up in the
they're
drop
not
down.
self-explanatory enough in my eyes to know which is the ones that are selected, which is the full
Exactly.
list, and which is the, yeah, absolutely makes sense. So work item sidebar drop down widget, item sidebar drop down widget. So none will render
Else.
else. Yeah.
Else if has value. So what is has value?
If something is selected, I would say it's probably like if something is selected.
This is going to be multi-select, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if something is selected, then it is
item value is what we do. What else? What reference item value here? I'm just curious how all item value is used before we set it.
That's the stuff that's selected, right?
Yes. So we use it there. Keep going. Local selected item. Okay. I guess we'll omit. Can we look at local selected item real fast? I just want to understand this component a little more.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so labels are a bit fancy, but that's what worries me. Again, this is
no, there's some coupling to labels, right?
Yeah, but this has been used elsewhere, so I hope that.
Wait, what is created label ID?
Probably because if from within the widget you can create labels.
Yeah. Okay, does local selected item get pushed? I'm sure it does, but it's like, okay, what else pushes the local selected item? Handle item click. But I would expect
But like there was no data there. Shouldn't like am I just confused? Like, are you getting anything from the backend?
That's kind of where I got to figuring out
you did though on the
why.
props you did on the prop. So yeah, it does look like we want to use item value. I think it'll
Well,
work.
on the props there is data because
There's
the
items.
data is. Ah, okay. I was just confused because the Apollo data was empty. See that?
Yeah.
I know it's
Yeah.
loading 0. I was just like, okay.
No, yeah. So we're getting some items, but yeah, there's a couple of issues. Number one, we should be getting. Well, I don't know. Maybe we don't until we enter here. I don't know if the query should execute until
Yeah,
we.
you mentioned there was an error happening in that query, but it's like let's just solve the presenting the items first
Yeah.
problem. Sounds cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
makes
And
sense.
there are some interesting designs to it as well. Like we'll need to group by organization and stuff, it sounds like. And so that'll be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
but yeah, it looks like we want to, and I think,
I wasn't aware that the items were there. Like,
yeah,
you know.
So item values is doing local items and local items. Right. Okay. So that's interesting.
That's not using the props though, is it?
No.
Yeah.
No. So have we got widget in here? Undefined.
well, wait, why is, what is local items? Can we jump into
Loc.
the drop down widget to see how local items is used?
So I don't think it is. Like this is the name in our component, if that makes sense. That we're
Oh,
then passing to. I thought we were passing,
oh,
but we're
so it,
wrapping it in item values and then pass it. It's just a list of IDs essentially. And
I think I understand. Okay, if we go back to work item CRM, okay, so you're saying local items doesn't get passed to the fancy sidebar drop down widget. Like what references the local items here?
yeah, so like local items is what item values references, and item values is what we're passing into the sidebar widget drop down thingy bob. So it's this bit that is
Yeah,
empty and maybe shouldn't be.
I think we'll want to do this a different way than the labels
Right.
one. Can I see what references local items here? Yeah, what all is ref? That's
Just
it.
that.
Yeah. So it's like I think the labels is using local items to present the. But what's weird is rather than local items just being this presentation layer, they're then using that to like, okay, we're gonna select the actual selections one from this bit. I kind of like item values as my single source of truth for like what's selected, and then we'll use local items to like make our organization group buys or whatever like that.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
So I think we want to pass. I think we want. Um. Well, we have our prop items. I guess that needs to go into a data, right? Of like selected items because we can't mutate the items prop that we get. That's really like currently selected items. Like if we scroll up to our top.
Yeah, I guess what I'm trying to understand is, do we need access to this? What I'm interested why this is empty.
The widget.
Yeah. So I'm going to have a look if this work item. So work item is undefined. So is it for labels?
So
No, we've got
it
an
look and it looks like
object.
it's doing a GraphQL query for that, but it's interesting. Like, why do we need to pull the whole work item here? Like, is every single one of these widgets gonna pull the whole work item? And especially if I'm already receiving items, you know?
Should we see if we can figure out if it's doing it from cache? That's my suspicion. I don't know how I'll determine that, but
You just look how many GraphQL queries are fired on the page and whether they always load the work item. Like if you go to the network tab and just reload the page, and you should see like
There's a bunch of GraphQL queries.
sure there is.
there's a lot, but obviously we know all the different
Yeah, just filter by fetch. Just filter by fetch, yeah, that makes it easier. And then I usually just go in and
so if
that's the payload, that's not the response, right? Like
yeah, but what I'm looking to see is how many
There was project work item just a second ago.
yeah, but I mean I guess essentially looking to see is project work item asked for like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times or more, which I don't think it is, right? We got one, maybe two. So only 2 potentially. So then what I'm curious is, does this response get all the widgets? Ah, interesting.
Okay.
I don't even know why because I felt like we seem to somehow be getting our items through the props. I don't even know why we would need to query the work items, you know?
So
like it seems like a weird abstraction for like, let my parameters give me what I need. I don't need to do everything,
yeah,
like go fetching out whatever I need and stuff. It doesn't.
yeah, I know what you mean. I haven't quite figured it out yet, but I getting the impression that it's to do with like updating the cache and allowing you to. I think they're using local mutations as well, client mutations. So when you change something like in one of these, it updates the cache and the whole sort of everything's updated, if that makes sense. I wonder if that's kind of why the whole thing's being passed. But yeah, I'm sort of in the same boat to some extent, but I feel like there must be a reason that we're using the widget and the local labels rather than. So let's just see what's passed into this. Do we pass?
It doesn't even look like
it. Interesting. Yeah. We don't actually pass in the labels to this one.
So I think that might be related to it. What does reference work item CRM context right now? How does that one get loaded? Our CRM context component.
So we've got 2 places that load these widgets at the moment. We've got create work item and we've got work item attributes wrapper. I think we're probably on work item attributes wrapper. So do you know what? I think that's what we're missing. Again, I stripped as much out and I've sort of just started like putting everything back in to try and understand it as best possible.
I have a feeling that labels has like a special performance requirement because labels is a weird domain that happens a lot of times, and that's probably why we defer loading all of the labels at some point. But it looks like if we have the items as a prop, I don't think we need to query. I don't think we need to do this. I don't think we need to keep track of work items or query it like labels is. Labels is a special component. So some of the stuff.
So let's just have a look at a few others quickly then. So Assignees was the other one that I've been looking at a little bit. So this one we do pass in assignees. And what does Apollo do? Apollo gets a list of users, but you're right, it never loads the work item. So should we rip that out then?
I think so. I kind of want to rip it with
Pull that band-aid.
yeah.
So we'll get rid of work item.
What do they say in the military? If you're discharged with extreme prejudice, that's what I want to do with.
So local assignee IDs. Let's just have a look what we passed into the sort of child component for this one. So we pass list items, search users, and item value, selected assignee IDs, which is local assignee IDs. Which is, wow. Oh my God.
That's their mutatable one. And so where does local, can you walk through local assignees IDs again?
See where it gets populated.
Select. Oh, they're in watch of assignees. That must be that's our prop. So when, okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense. And we'll need to do that with contacts if our prop changes, we want to update our little state thing.
Okay.
Yeah. Basically. Items. Yeah. I would call our stateful one the selected items one. The online, no, that one's called items. We want to watch that prop. I would call in line 98. Oh, do you already have local IDs as already a state thing?
Well, we've got, no, I don't think we have. Item values is what we were using.
Okay. But we'll need to add a stateful bit called like selected items. I think, yeah, I would add one here, selected items. Does IP stop me if I'm not making any sense.
For that one.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know if we need, I don't know. It does look like it wants this selected items to just be just the array of IDs. And that's fine. That kind of makes sense.
Do you mind if I go
I like
one
that.
step further?
I like that a lot. Yes. Yes. I'm game for that. Cool.
Okay. Should I get rid of that already or not yet?
Maybe not yet. But I do want to go back to let's pop our context and go back to the work item assignees because we were walking through something there.
Yeah, should I put local
item value would be the selected item IDs?
Yeah. So did you want to keep looking for where this is used, or
I do, because we still haven't seen how this gets updated through that drop down thing. Yeah, if we keep going. Yeah, we keep going. I'm looking for it on like the left hand side of something. Handle assignees, input assignees, set local assignee IDs on event.
Should we dig into this one?
I think so. That sounds like that's the thing. This dot local assignee IDs. Yes. Okay. So it's like handle assignee click. If we jump into handle assignee click, I'd expect that.
Can we just, because I feel like we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves, worrying about how to update, if that makes sense.
This is true.
If we can try and, so let's see if we're actually, and again, I don't know if I need to refresh. That's good. We've got read only back. That's good.
Read only?
So that means that it realizes that there are items and it's now rendering my read-only template. So we can sort of throw something a little bit more meaningful in here if we want.
Oh, but
I'm
wait,
not sure.
wait.
Go on,
Our
go
select
on.
something's a little funny there though, because selected items IDs was empty. We never updated it or anything like that, right? Oh wait, we added our watcher. So wait,
Yeah.
so we should be okay. So it is actually set.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm just thinking if we can do something dumb.
Yeah, could we see what the assignees does for the read-only bit?
It's using a but I suppose we can have a look at uncollapsed.
Okay, but what I'm really interested in is
Cool.
the 367, the like local assignees bit. So it's like, okay, and I want to see like how is that associated with the IDs things. Okay, so this is like our presentation items that we want to present.
Yeah.
They're calling it local. We can call it local if we want to.
Okay, so did we have something called local items? We did. So we're saying,
but we don't need the widget. So we can get rid of line 62. We landed on we don't want the widget too much.
Yeah.
And I think I'm thinking now, all right, yes, I'm actually pretty certain we want to do this. Rather than our state being selected item IDs, I think we're going to want it to be selected items, but we'll have a computed of selected item IDs.
Okay.
So this will be selected items, and we want to update wherever we were doing that before. Yeah. Yes.
And that's basically this, but not quite.
It is basically that, but not quite.
I'm glad you get my insanity. So, but what will we...
Then going back to our watcher.
Yes, exactly.
We want to set selected items equal to how would you IP so I think just items. You got items.
Sorry, yeah.
You're good.
What
IP? How would we kind of want to clone this, right? We use Lodash.
I mean, if you're doing a map, then you don't need to clone because it's a new
well, for like view reactivity, do we need to don't we need to deep clone?
No, like you're now creating a new array, a new value, you don't need to clone. It's not I mean
but the inner objects are still going to be their old references. Like, we don't actually have, not that we should be mutating any of it, but it's like we technically are setting to our state bits that we don't totally have privilege to mutate completely. You know what I mean?
So you're saying if the watcher is getting cold, right? Like if the watcher is getting cold, the new value will be the new values. And if you do you want the items or do you want the IDs? What do you want?
What I'm saying is, Lee, if you add below this line on line 96, we want to have just the items because we're going to present, this.
We want the items.
Right. We want to do the array of items. But if we selected items as our internal state, new val comes from prop land. Even if I just shallow clone the array, if somewhere else in my component, I do something like this dot selected items 0 dot name equals, and I just change, I don't have privilege to just change the object because I didn't deep clone the object. That reactivity is, you know what I'm saying?
That reactivity will always fire now, right? Like if you now have a computer that does this selected item 0 equals its context, right? Equals Paul. Then this will definitely fire because you're completely setting the value of this selected items. And therefore, everything that depends on this selected items will definitely get updated.
Right. I'm concerned about the need, and I don't think we'll need to, but in the Zoom chat, I left the line of code that's like not here, but elsewhere.
Oh,
When it comes to our internal state, we need to deep clone all of our props that were reset to it, because otherwise we will keep around reactive references and we
but
lose the like.
I don't get what you're saying here, because the thing is, like, the example you have in the Zoom chat is just stupid. Like, why would you do that now? Like,
It is. I know it is. Yeah,
like,
it's
right, like this is something that is like a lintable offense or whatever, right? Like, it's like, why would you shouldn't, I mean, this selected items is something that is derived from the props, right? And if it's derived
yes.
from the props, you shouldn't
Yes.
mutate it.
Got it. Yes. And I agree with that. So that's my question to you was like, okay, we are deriving this from the props. Do we want a deep clone so that we're protected even if somehow down the line it ends up being mutated because of some change and because that context of like, oh, this comes from the props, I have to keep that in my head as I deal with selected items.
I mean, right now, if items are objects, right, and they're handed down from props, hypothetically, someone could update the items somewhere, right? Which
That's what I'm saying. Is like, do we want a deep clone here? Do you like being extra defensive in that regard?
I mean, to be fair, like, does stuff still work if you deep clone? Because I don't know how the selector component works, if it works by comparing values, like, or if it works by reference. Because
In this
if it
regard, it would work if we still deep clone, like because we haven't used the items yet. I think.
I mean, if you want to be extra defensive, wouldn't like an object freeze on new val.map like be enough? Because then you can't mutate the items.
Maybe
I don't know.
that's true. I don't know.
I don't know. Is object freeze actually recursive? I don't know. Like, I think we are confusing Lee and we shouldn't be worrying so much. That's my first thought.
Okay. What IP said is important thing to keep track here is that selected items is our internal state that's derived from props still because we haven't deeply cloned it. So we can't just go around mutate. We can mutate the array, we can push to the array and stuff like that, but the inner objects of selected items we don't want to touch because unless
yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
What I'm saying?
makes sense. Yeah,
I just have a stupid question. I wasn't really following along. I was doing other things, but this all feels like very bad code because I had the feeling that in that fancy drop down, we're also like copying state and doing all these kind of things. This feels like very copy heavy. Why are we actually copying the items here? For what?
I don't think
Like the drop down had an internal state. Why are we now introducing an internal state here again? I'm just like,
yeah, I
it
don't
feels a
it's
little
really
bit
good.
I don't think the
smelly
drop
that
down
we
does the internal state thing. I think that's
there is like an internal state, right? Like local selected item. This is definitely like something like, I don't know, like
if we
I
go
was just
yeah.
I just had the fear that we're now layering on like 7,000 levels of internal state. And I was just wondering why. Like there might be good reasons for it, but like I don't know.
Well,
I mean,
for one
should
of
we
it,
try that? Should we try passing directly first and then only maintain our internal state if and when we find we need to? Or
I feel like we already need to because for the reason maybe we don't, but there's I think it would require a change to this component. So if we don't, the reason is that the presentation slot does not give us access to what's actually selected. So it's like all of the other components using this one have to also keep track of it because the presentation slot.
But how do the other components using it do it then? Like, are they
they're
all
all doing
maintaining
this.
internal state?
Yeah, they're all doing this.
we try and pick another. I don't know if any of them are. Don't think any of them are really.
If you go to the like here,
Milestone?
we're doing the watch.
Milestone?
Yeah, let's talk
Milestone
about
one?
milestone. It'll be interesting.
I mean, milestone is maybe not that interesting because it's not a multi-select, right?
That's true.
Like,
That's actually
is there another one that's a multi-select? The label one probably, right? Like,
yeah. So Signees is doing this like shallow cloning thing, and
So labels is interesting because it tracks like which ones you've added and which ones you've removed.
yeah.
There's no watcher in here though. But then
that's
this
because
one
they keep fetching from the labels is
yeah.
labels
Well,
is
labels interacts directly with the GraphQL
Yeah.
store all the time. What about assignees?
assignees is the pattern that we're seeing of okay, this is how they use the component. They're doing this like
Oh, yeah, they have like watch assignees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
look, they don't take. I mean, they're just mapping the IDs. Okay, yeah, okay. Yeah, no, I think then it's fine. Like,
okay, yeah, no, we
like,
so where have we got to now? We've got the items. The items prop that's
we were
coming in is
adding a
being
computed
used
for
to
selected item IDs. Did we get to there? If we scroll up to the computed of selected item IDs, is there? Cool.
Yeah, and that was working, I think, because we were then rendering the read only. So now we need to
Yes.
just
So now-
chuck something quick
Yeah.
and dirty in here.
So now we loop through selected items here. V4 selected items. I forgot how to do this. Item and selected items. Yeah. 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 Item ID. Nice. Item dot name. Email. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Oh yeah. It's in there.
So now, again, I know lots of work to do to make that look, but I'm interested to now see what I'm going to reload it again. Because that was the kind of next hang up that I think it should be executing that GraphQL query now to try and get a list of all available contacts, which is going to be fun. And
it feels like you probably need to label it more after the labels thing then. I mean, assignees probably also has like a thing. Like, how does assignee do it? Like, if you go edit, right? Like, they must be showing you a search or something as well.
Yeah,
right?
we'll take a look at that. But yeah, so where I was getting stuff, for some reason my contacts query isn't being passed the variables it should be. But yeah, let's have a look. So assigning, so I think we said, so item values is what's selected, list items is search users. That's the kind of, list of available options, I think. So yeah, this is interesting.
Alphabetized users. What is alphabetized users?
I guess
users, participants. So this is not doing any queries at all, right?
Well, where is it getting?
I think this dot users and this dot participants might be coming from somewhere.
And users, I think, is the Apollo query.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense. Fun stuff.
So
I have to run.
Thanks
have
for
a
hanging
really
out.
nice weekend.
Yeah.
See you soon. Bye.
have a good one. Catch you later.
See you later, man.
So yeah, it's just seeing why are the variables not getting. I'm sure it's probably, this one's probably as simple as a typo, right?
Yeah, well, it said the group path wasn't being. So maybe work item full path isn't. Oh, I don't think first. You're doing Ruby stuff, man. What are you doing there?
But regardless, I don't think it works.
I think the split might be what you need, but
soon find out.
Yeah. IP brings up a good point about all the copying that's happening of like every layer is like copying this is what's selected and this other layer is copying what's selected. that'll be an interesting thing to keep an eye on of like, okay, are we staying in sync? Is it possible that one of the is that the one? Is that the query
It's
context?
not passing it. It's not because I'm not doing the query
that
can be
should be fine.
static and the variable. Yeah, that's what I thought. Is that? That's all it is. Well, I'm not passing this in. So where are we getting? Full path props. Oh, we had. Sorry,
Is this full path? Now that's for groups though. Is that going to be a problem with? Is that how it's?
I will need to do the splitting, etc.
Okay.
But I just want to see, because at the moment the parameter just isn't getting perfect.
Oh,
now it's doing
nice.
that, then we can mess around with. What do you mean?
So one challenge is that these widgets are, you know, work item type agnostic. So you don't know if you're inside of an epic, which could be already in a group or a project.
That's fine. That's fine.
So we can't. I don't think we have the privilege to just like.
Woohoo!
Nice. Cool.
Unsurprisingly, it doesn't magically work. But that's what I genuinely like. Again, I'm going to get absolutely destroyed by the front end plan team when I talk to them about it. But I feel like most of this logic could be abstracted to a generic reusable component. Like everything we're doing doesn't seem that. But that's awesome.
And I think the right abstraction would be really helpful, because we're going to inevitably want to change some things, and the number of times we're duplicating ourselves is, you know, we're gonna end up paying the piper one day on that.
Absolutely.
But
well,
it has to be the right. It has to be the right abstraction, which is the challenge.
Yeah, true. It's the one that I had to.
I think the contacts bit is going to be is interesting use case, because the way we want to present it, we want to filter some of it before we present it as is, you know.
This is one of the examples of where, you know, we've done the same thing lots of times.
Yeah.
We basically got two queries that were identical that we're importing for, depending on whether it's a group or a project. And yeah, just it becomes quite I mean, that wasn't fun, updating 36 files. So sorry, you were saying
no, I think this is good. I was going back to IP's concern about all the copying of the thing. Like if we scroll down, we keep scrolling down. Yeah, we keep going all the way to the bottom. I don't know why read only is not like a scoped slot where we can receive the selected items we're going to present.
right.
And then we create a component for displaying just the read only selected items. And from there, we can do the computed of like grouping by, you know, we could shuffle our prop that we get around. And so yeah, there's it's like this drop down widget is helping out, but it's also leaving a lot of responsibility to each widget needing to do some stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay,
cool. Yeah, this is interesting. Thanks for at least we got
thanks for going through it. we're sort of heading in the right direction.
Yeah. Have you well, I guess it's hard with have you tried using like Storybook for locally for developing some of this stuff?
No.
Um
What?
so we have our local storybook for the main GitLab project. We obviously have it for the GitLab UI, which I'm sure you've used, familiar with, but we have it for the main GitLab project, and we can create stories and stuff. It's a really nice way to just isolate. I'm just working on this component. I want to get the way it looks to look right and stuff. I don't have to worry about the GDK, and you can actually hook it up to the GDK. You can actually hook it up to like a main. If you want it to make requests to the main GitLab instance too, you can hook it up that way as well.
All right.
So it's that you may find that a pleasant development cycle when you're doing just the front end side of getting everything hooked up. Yeah,
give it a poke.
Yeah. Anyways, thanks for chatting. It was good catching up.
No worries. Good to see you. Take it easy. Have a good weekend.
Yeah,
Thanks,
you too.
Paul.
I'll see you.
Catch you later. Bye.